She was named after her grandmother, the spirit of the forest. Daddy was a ghost and was also Sylvia's friend. Sylvia's parents, Nagula Zambozi, son of Sylvia Zambozi, spirit of the forest, and Rowena Zambozi, daughter of Serena Masaltek, spirit of the year. Although now everyone just calls her Dad Minipa, since he upset Rowena's mother one day. Slovena's mother, Serena Masaltek, by making some long-forgotten slight. And so Serena cast a spell, and he was shrunken down to 2 inches tall. And now he lives in a dollhouse that the family moves around with them to whatever room the family's in. Until Sylvia's mother, Rowena, can talk some sense into her mother, Serena, who is acting tough because she doesn't want anyone to know that she, the spirit of the year, is having difficulty undoing the spell that shrunk Minipa down to 2 inches tall, and would rather have people think that she is mean, wicked, and headstrong, rather than old and forgetful. So she's been reading a lot of books lately, trying to come up with a way to lift the spell before Minipa's mother finds out about all this. Sylvia's grandmother and namesake, Sylvia Zambozi, finds out what she's done. That Serena knows that if she can't fix it before then, well then, they will be hell to pay, because she knows, or at least she knew, how unreasonable and petty Sylvia Zambozi can be. She thought back to some incidences back in college, especially against someone who she has always considered as a rival, her greatest rival. And so she studied the old books in hopes of preventing this calamity, this insult to her vanity, as she is shown to be a witch in decline. And worst of all, she will have to ask that old witch for help. Some rivalries never die. When Sylvia Zambozi visited her family, Zarina could not believe how old her friend had gotten. She had rehearsed her speech so often that it just all came out. Then Sylvia Zambozi, stepping back, said, I never thought of you as a rival. I always thought of you as a friend. Well, thank you, said Zarina. Next, Sylvia Zambozi popped into the dollhouse and had tea with her son, and handed him a key and said, whenever you are ready, just step outside of the dollhouse door and lock it behind you, and you will return to full size. Thanks, Mom, I will, but I have to think about this. Why? Asked his mother. Because I feel a part of my family now. They include me in on all of their decisions and discussions. They consider my feelings. My feelings, and that's never happened before. All right, son, I knew that there was a reason you hadn't reached out. Yuri and Aluka Hatame are their next-door neighbors, and they are part of a nature-friendly movement, the Church of Nature. They call themselves Nature's Church. Her dad says it's a pacifist movement of tree huggers. Can't count on humans to help us or to save nature. The war to stop man from destroying nature does not depend upon man giving up the harvesting of plants and animals, but simply of learning how to live in harmony with the environment, while the other side believes that nature is the enemy and must be either tamed or destroyed. That is what this war is all about. as Mother Nature attempts to tame and bring into harmony her wayward children. We must protect the forest, she surmised. There must always be a reason why we use our powers, why we do what we do. Her dad was always headstrong about not needing the tree huggers, and that Mother Nature and her armies were more than capable of doing it on their own. But I knew for a fact his mother was not so sure of this, or as her son, that nature could be saved. With or without assistance from the tree huggers, the world was in trouble. Sylvia had a best friend who she called the ghost or dead girl or the ghost or dead girl or just, hey Daddy, for short. Ghosts without dimension are spirits that are stuck between worlds that only witches can see. So the two of them would walk for hours and point things out and listen to the silence, because although the dead girl was friendly to Sylvia and loved to hold Sylvia's hand as they walked, she did not speak. She never spoke a word. Then one day Sylvia had an idea, so she got a book on American Sign Language and cast a spell over the book. As Sylvia and Daddy held hands, and as they also held the book, and from then on they could talk to each other using American Sign Language. Her name was Elmira, and her parents were John Hervey and Elizabeth Hervey, and she had a brother named Tom that everyone called Bonkers because he was so big, and she had been born deaf and had never learned how to talk. They had been hanged as a family on Boston Common in 1633, when during the tea riots, the mob went after the only family of Quakers in the entire city of Boston at the time. And out of nowhere they blamed them for the tea shortages and attacked them with a vengeance. And before you knew it, the family was swinging from the vines, swinging from the gallows. Where is this now? And then they were cut down and just left lying on the ground, and with the family standing over their bodies, looking down at their former selves, and and one by one they disappeared from this world, leaving only Admira. So she looked around as if to say, "Hello? Did you forget somebody?" When they cut down the bodies, Admira stepped away from her body and just knelt and wept and prayed over the bodies and of her and her loved ones. After the tea riots were over and the mob dissipated, the bodies were burnt. Cemeteries were only for the God-fearing. "Wow," said Sylvia. "Why didn't you go with your family? Why are you still here?" "I don't know. But when I think about it, the only incident that stands out in my mind is one day I was replanting trees by the riverside. My dad was clearing some trees, clearing like another 40 acres so that he could plant a wheat field out there. And so I would walk alongside him as he'd talk and wave his hands and point at things, and I would smile, and every once in a while I would spot a beautiful baby tree, and he would let me rescue some of them and replant them down near the river. And it was there that I met a woman who looked at the baby tree that I was replanting and then at me, and with her look she said, "Those are lovely trees, aren't they, my dear?" And I thought, yes. Then as I patted the dirt down around one of them, I could feel something in the silence. And when I looked up, the woman was gone. I bet," said Sylvia, "you had met an old witch, maybe even my grandmother, who had thought she was casting a protection spell over you for your kindness to one of your trees, but instead she cast a connection spell instead of a protection spell. A connection spell to a place. Connecting spell to a place. If you had been an elf or a fairy, you would have been bound to the nearest tree for the life of that tree. But I guess it affects humans differently. Oh, said Daddy. Does that mean you can help me? Well, sure I will. I will ask my mother tonight. Really? Yes, I promise. So that night her mother said, have you been talking to a tree? No, said Sylvia. You know, connection spells are how we trap fairies and elves and trees. We do it as punishment. We'll trap them in there for the life of the tree, which in elf years, because they are immortal, is really no time at all. A century is a little more than a long afternoon to them. So you don't want to be talking to one of those never-do-wells. I met a ghost, said Sylvia, suddenly. What? Said the mother. A dead girl? Yes. A ghost who can't move on because a witch placed a connection spell on her. By mistake. I think she had wanted to place a protection spell over her, but it didn't go right. It must have been an old witch like Grandma who wanted to put a protection spell on her but put a connecting spell on by mistake. Well, she's my friend and I want to help her. Oh, so what you need is a ghost spell, said Rowena, to release them from this world and allow them to continue on a journey. Yes, said Sylvia. Well, that's an easy one. Now, what you need to do then is hold hands with your friend and then say, you are freed from this place. The connection is broken. On this day of grace, the door is now open. That's it? Yep, that's it. Oh, thank you. So the next day Sylvia sat with Daddy, and they held hands. Then Sylvia said, you are freed from this place. The connection is broken. On this day of grace, the door is now open. Then they waited. She had said it just like her mother had told her to, but Daddy didn't disappear. What's wrong? Asked Sylvia. You're free. But you're my friend, and I'm frightened to let go. Well, said Sylvia, I guess now that the connecting spell has been broken, you just have to want to leave. So I can leave any time I want to? Yes. I like that, said Daddy. And I will someday, I think. Sylvia smiled at her friend. Then they walked to the four corners of Boston Commons like Daddy had done 1,000,000 times before over the years. And on the walk, Daddy showed Sylvia where her family and her had swung in the breeze on that day so long ago. And Daddy told Sylvia a story about the time her father had lost and then found his glasses, and how Tom had almost sat on them, and Sylvia had never seen Daddy so happy, laughing as she smiled, a sad smile nonetheless. Then Daddy said to Sylvia, my family, Sylvia, I miss them, even my stupid brother Tom. Sylvia turned to wipe away a tear, and when she turned back, Daddy was gone. Then as she looked to where Daddy had been standing a moment before, Sylvia saw a beautiful flower growing, so she dug it up and replanted it where Daddy and her family had swung in the breeze so long ago. Then she signed, goodbye, Elmira. Then she walked home alone. Her friend was gone. The end.